Now I'm recording.
Hello, every puppy. I'm Markiplier, and I have a master's degree.
Hello, everybody. I am the patron saint of one-way trips, but like the Episcopalian patron saint of one-way trips, not like the main, like the Kroger brand one, right? Like not the Catholic one, not even the Anglican one, but the Episcopalian one. Oh, and I'm a dropout.
Meat, meat, we want the meat. Meat, meat, we want the meat. Gnash those teeth, we want the meat.
Welcome back to Gnashing Teeth.
Yeah, welcome back. We've been away for a while because personal life's got in the way, but we should be back routinely and regularly for the foreseeable future.
In the white vans, nonetheless.
In the white hands, back at it again.
Yeah,
That's a
cool.
reference I haven't heard in a thousand years.
Well, so was my other intro that we had to discard because we've
That's true.
recorded this thrice now. Uh,
Thrice, that's true. That's true. Okay, let's lock in.
all right, so the raw meat for this week is chosen by my dear friend Astra.
Yes. So today we're going to be talking about misinformation and how people are not stupid, but fall for misinformation kind of willingly.
Hmm.
And we're looking at this through a lens of nuclear power. So I am a huge nerd about nuclear power. I almost became a nuclear engineer right before I dropped out of college. Um, um, and Monday, what do you know about nuclear power?
I mean, most of what I know is that George Bush can't say it, W specifically.
Okay.
I also know that it is ecologically a better alternative to
Hmm.
coal, but it scares people because they made a bomb out of it in World War II.
Yeah.
That's about it.
So there's this really dark saying I got from a book I read about the history of nuclear power, which is
Mhm.
kind of like a very dark in joke in the academic community and the industrial community around nuclear power, which is if gasoline's first use had been napalm, we'd all be driving electric cars.
Ooh,
Um, and it's horrifying, but it's a really good lens to look at nuclear power from, right? Because of its
mhm.
origin being so militarized, people have a really bad re- thought process about it, and that's not unwarranted. For nuclear, not necessarily for nuclear power, but for nuclear weapons. Nuclear weapons are the worst thing we have ever done as a species. I'm confident saying that the only thing that might be worse is our continued refusal to treat tuberculosis and other large-scale life-threatening diseases, but that is more negligence than intentional, so it gets muddy, but point being, sorry, autism, point being, uh, nuclear weapons are really horrifying. And beyond using them on people, which we've only done twice, only, only in comparison to nuclear testing, where it was so bad that that kids in the United States were told not to drink rainwater, like not to catch snow in their mouths, not to play in streams, because there was that much nuclear testing going on. Like you could
Yeah.
go to Nevada, go to Las Vegas, and as part of your stay, get a view where you can see nuclear bomb testing happening. We we blew Nevada the fuck up. We just bombed the
Yeah.
shit out of it with nuclear weapons. And there's a whole history of indigenous displacement as a method of basically to clear a bunch of people out of a indigenous people out of an area and bomb the area with a nuclear bomb to get an idea of how it would
Mhm.
work on an island or in a heavily forested area or whatever. Um, and we learned a lot about how nuclear weapons work and how they don't work. But we permanently, well, not permanently, but we long term damaged the health of generations, right? Thyroid cancer rates are really high from that generation. Um, You can track in their teeth the amount of nuclear fission byproducts that they were exposed to. But nuclear power, which is not necessarily a road to nuclear weaponry anymore, is really, really good, right? Even the worst nuclear disaster, like there's 3 big nuclear disasters everybody thinks of, right? There's, in order, Chernobyl, Fukushima, 3 Mile Island, right?
Mhm.
Chernobyl killed, on the very hardcore anti-nuclear estimates, thousands or tens of thousands of people. Fukushima killed hundreds. 3 Mile Island killed. You want to guess how many 3 Mile Island killed?
A few dozen.
0.5. Like, doing the
How do you
statistical
kill half of somebody?
because there are no reported deaths from 3 Mile Island directly attributable to 3 Mile Island. There is the amount of radiation released by 3 Mile Island statistically caused 0.5 deaths. Like, it's half the, like, averaged out over the area, and over time, it would be, the number comes out to 0.5, so rounded up to 1 death. Right?
Yeah.
And that's uncertain. So, let's compare this to coal power, for example, which is still how most of the world powers itself. So coal power, let's find a source that isn't AI. University of Texas in Austin. This is a source from 2023. I'll link it in the description. But it's the headline is coal power killed 500,000 people in the U.S. over 2 decades. Let's see. A team of researchers from 6 universities, including the University of Texas at Austin, examined data from the United States' 480 coal-fired power plants and found that from 1999 to 2020, approximately 460,000 deaths in the Medicare population were attributable to coal electricity generating emissions, a number far higher than previous estimates. So, every nuclear power death combined, and I'm verifying that this is true. Yeah, every nuclear power disaster combined, and Fukushima and Nagasaki combined, have a death toll on the very bad end lower than a 20-year estimate of coal deaths in the United States in a small subset of the population during a time period where coal emissions are largely way more controlled than they used to be. Right?
Yeah.
Which is a really powerful statistic.
Yeah.
But I guarantee you, if I told a really hardcore anti-nuclear power person, they wouldn't care. Right? And there are a lot of reasons for that, but there are studies that have been done about how if you give somebody who's staunchly radicalized, or like really, really firm about their beliefs, whether that be a bigot or a MAGA person, and by MAGA I don't just mean like a bigot, I mean like a QAnon conspiracy theorist, fucking out of their mind, does not have an accurate grasp on reality
Flat
person.
Earth guy of Denton, Texas.
Exactly. If you show them data that disagrees with their opinion, studies show that they get more entrenched in their position. Which doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense intuitively. But if you think about it for a little bit, it's like, if somebody is so entranced in misinformation that they believe, like, a lot of misinformation, like, groups and campaigns and political ideologies that believe in fundamentally false narratives, whether that be that nuclear power is super dangerous, or that the Jews control the world, or that ancient aliens built the pyramids, or Atlantis was real, which is stupid in its own way, because Atlantis was used as an example by, I think, Plato, maybe Socrates, like as a hypothetical perfect civilization that got wiped out. And then a random post-Civil War Confederate soldier made a bunch of books about it, and people thought it was real. It is so stupid, the detailed history of Atlantis. But point being, if you tell these people that, or moon landing deniers, right?
Mhm.
That's a really good example, right? If you show them the video, they go, oh, it's on a soundstage. If you show them the rocks we got, they go, oh, they have all sorts of excuses. If you show them the fact that, the shadows don't work the right way, they go, oh, you got a really, really good, they just, when you give them data that disagrees with their beliefs,
They move the goalposts.
they move the goalpost. And what doesn't happen is they go, oh, I might be wrong. What happens is, oh, this conspiracy is so much deeper than I thought.
Mm.
Right? So when you tell somebody, oh, nuclear power deaths are, nuclear deaths in general are way less severe than the solutions we're currently using, right? Predominantly. They don't think, oh, we should switch to nuclear power. They think, oh, the nuclear power lobby is lying about the numbers.
Mhm.
Right? Or another good example is nuclear disarmament. I am a very strong proponent in nuclear disarmament and nuclear nonproliferation. I don't think we can ever truly feel safe as a species until every nuclear weapon is gone off this earth forever. There is no reason for anybody to have them. They are, as XKCD's Randall Munroe put it so well in his book Thing Explainer, where he describes everything, it's an encyclopedia where everything is described, given a name and described using the top 200, I think, or 1,000 most common words, in the English language. And do you want to know what nuclear bomb simplifies to, or becomes?
Sure, yeah.
Machine for burning cities. Which is correct.
Yeah.
There's no reason to have them, right?
Yeah.
And nuclear power can sometimes, not always, but sometimes be used to create nuclear weapons material. The reason this works that way is because, do you know what an isotope is, Monday?
I've heard the word, but that's
So,
not.
were you ever in a
That's not where my master's degree is. I'll tell you what.
were you ever in a chemistry class?
In high school.
You remember how on the periodic table there's the number of the atomic mass, and it has digits beyond the zero, it has decimals?
Yes.
That is because of the isotopes. That's basically, so an atom, this is getting very technical, this is as technical as it'll be. Fuck! We gotta lock in. An element, rather, is defined by the number of protons it has. Protons are positively charged subatomic particles. There's protons, electrons, and neutrons.
Yes. I remember this.
Electrons are negatively charged. Electrons dictate a lot about chemistry. Protons dictate a lot about nuclear structure and chemical behavior. Or not chemical behavior, but atomic behavior. So whether or not it's radioactive, how heavy it is, how dense it can be, stuff like that.
Okay.
A isotope, for example, there's carbon 10 and there's carbon 11. Sorry, there's carbon 10 and carbon 12, I think.
They'll have invented carbon 11 by the time this episode airs. Don't worry.
There you go.
To prove your theories.
They're both carbon, but they have different numbers of neutrons. And the number of neutrons being higher or lower makes the nucleus less stable, and therefore can make it more radioactive. Which is how radiocarbon dating works, because there's a more radioactive form of carbon that is, I think, lighter, and therefore life prefers for certain niche chemical reasons. So we can track how old a living sample was, or a once living sample was, whether that be, a corpse, a set of bones, a book that was once plant matter or whatever, by seeing how much carbon of that radioactive isotope there is.
Right.
A nuclear reactor works by taking a radioactive element, having it break apart, become two smaller elements, emit some energy and some particles, and having that break other atoms into multiple parts, and creating a cascade of heat released from that, which generates the power. Very basically. And part of what this does is it makes other radioactive elements. Plutonium does not occur naturally. We have to make it in reactors, and also more radioactive elements like uranium-235 we have to make in reactors. I think it's uranium-235 that's more radioactive. It's 235 or 238. Point being, we have to artificially make these weapons-grade materials for nuclear weapons because they are too unstable to occur in nature. Some industrial and power-generating reactors work in a way that generates these materials. Some don't. More modern, more contemporary designs don't. They do not create weapons-grade material. There is, for example, a thorium salt reactor, which basically works by having using thorium as the radioactive element to generate the heat, and cooling it with liquid salt, with molten salt. These can never become bombs, and they can never become a disaster like Chernobyl. There's literally no physical way for this to happen. They do not create the right elements, and they do not work in a way that could create that kind of disaster. But people don't care. All they hear is nuclear reactor, and think you can make a bomb out of it, or it can go out like Chernobyl. Because people and misinformation is so driven by people's gut reactions and fear that it's really, really hard to overcome it in a way that's productive. Right? Like, Monday and I both fall under the trans umbrella. That is not a surprise, I don't think. But
the listeners at home are gagged. Yeah.
But point being, the way to convince a transphobe to stop being transphobic isn't to show them the statistics about how harmful transphobia is, and how trans people, and especially trans women, are not more likely to commit crimes of any variety. Not show them the data that their beliefs are fundamentally wrong, but to introduce them to the person, a trans person, in a genuine and intimate and non-hostile way. That's a lot of work. That's a lot of work for everybody involved. Which means we're in this terrible spot with misinformation. Do I have a thesis? I don't know. Shit sucks and I'm mad about it. Monday, what do you have to say about the topic, now that we kind of zoomed out from nuclear power?
Yeah, I think it's interesting the example you used about, like, the people who spread misinformation. Obviously, I'm not foolish. Like, they're big media empires, like the fucking White House right now.
Yeah.
I don't know if y'all have seen the White House's website, but they do call out posts for specific journalists.
Like, they did a call out post against
papers.
TMZ.
Yeah, they call them cuckolds on the White House website. They call them cuckolds. Click obsessed cuckolds was the phrase.
That's right.
So
that's right.
Like, I am not blind to the ways in which media, both in what is presented and in what is suppressed, impact people's beliefs. Like, I think that's pretty standard. But even the people who do not have the kind of clout of like the White House or even of TMZ do end up perpetuating these kinds of things, is rooted in not just like this ignorance and like tunnel vision, but I have heard that, not heard, but like I get the impression that it is from the right place, quote unquote, which is a healthy dose of doubt, but fundamentally it's not examined critically, that doubt. Like it's fed as a comfort creature, so like the thing that makes you feel better as a person experiencing these doubts is to self-soothe in some way. And for a lot of these people, it is to return to well-trodden beliefs regardless of their veracity. So
Yeah.
if it makes me feel better, it doesn't matter functionally if it's true.
Mhm.
And this is actually, funnily, something that I remember talking about in the context of storytelling and like the way one writes about not like only their experiences, but the way one writes fiction.
Mhm.
And because I was in a class, it was a PhD level English class, and this woman was talking about, I'm not going to spill her beans, but she was talking about some really difficult things that she went through, that she had been working on processing through writing.
Mhm.
And she not only found it difficult to share what she could write, but she found it difficult to write at all because she had suppressed a lot of those feelings and memories. And she was like, yeah, I mean, even if I do write it, I don't know that I'll ever publish it anywhere. Because she was a published poet also. She's like,
Mhm.
I don't think I'll ever publish this work because it involves people that I love and care about that are still living.
Yeah.
And I don't want them to be in a precarious position, in spite of the ways that, like, the things they did to me are what put them in that position,
Yeah.
um and while we were talking about this, I was like, well, we talk about authorial intent, like death of the author, but we also talk about the reliability of not just the narrator, but of the characters
Mhm.
in fiction writing. Because we were reading a novel where the narrator, the main character, was not reliable. He was the perspective, he was the point of view that we saw for the entire novel, but in his interactions with other characters, uh we were able to see that the way he was not presenting, because the way the novel was written, it wasn't like the POV character was telling us as the audience something. It was like
Mhm.
it was like he was experiencing it. So it wasn't a matter of like lying, but like the way he was experiencing things did not materially reflect the reality that other characters, other people in
Mhm.
his life interpreted it.
Yeah. Did not
So
match what I
there
would
was a
call
lot of,
consensual reality.
yeah, so there was a lot of like conflict between him and other characters because of that,
Mhm.
because his interpretation did not match the intention or the understanding of any of the other people in his life. And so I talked about that and how, like, that can be fine and like part of what you work into that fiction, and that still has merit,
Mhm.
like that still rhetorically matters for the sake of the narrative that you're telling. But also, even just like, what I said was the value of a lie in fiction,
Mm.
I think holds up as a very strong rhetorical device. Because in this novel that I was using as an example that we had talked about in the course, it was rhetorically significant because he was not lying. Like, our main character was not a liar. It
Right.
was, but it was like a difference of perspective, and that was
Mhm.
sort of highlighted in the text. But
Ooh, yeah.
what I said to her was like, there is still value in having your character or your narrative tell a lie.
Yeah.
And like, that is just as rhetorically impactful as seeking like absolute truth, because
Mhm.
that's something that a lot of people miss with art. And I mean, that's what a lot of writing is. It's what a lot of science is. A lot of, like, it's your art. You're doing art, you're trying to communicate something else through a specific medium. You're
Yeah.
trying to communicate something about the way reality works as you understand it through that medium. So if this woman that I had in class, or that I was in class with, I wasn't the professor.
Mhm.
But so yeah, so if this woman that I was speaking to wanted to tell that story, but also wanted to have her POV character, whether that was her or whether that was an invented character, lie about what happened, like, that's still rhetorically significant.
Mhm.
And I think still communicates something really vitally important about the narrative she wanted to share, even though it does something functionally very different from the character we were discussing in this other novel that we were talking about. And all the while still allowed her to process these emotions. Like, it still provided an avenue and an outlet for her to tell that story in a way that she literally would not and could not have told.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and she like these are things that she told me after the fact. Like I was just sort of talking it out with her because I was like, I don't think you should not write this story, you know, because it's painful. And like later she reached out to me and said like I would not have been able to even continue like with that narrative. Like I would have dropped it, but if not for like what you said. And that was really significant to me because you know, like I guess to sort of come back around to the nuclear power thing, it doesn't functionally matter like in the overarching narrative whether or not, you know, nuclear physicists or QAnon dweebs like actually believe whatever, like because consensus reality is one thing, which for those of you at home that aren't familiar, consensus reality is an idea that there is not necessarily an absolute reality that we all experience that is neutral, but there is a sort of agreed upon way that the world works. I mean, it also applies in like culture. Like there's an agreed upon way that like interactions go. There is a similar way that we understand our lives and our interactions with others to go, even if it isn't perfect, you know, like it doesn't always overlap. There's a consensus, even if the consensus is that there is a reality and that looks different, you know?
Yeah.
So going back to the nuclear power thing, like maybe the QAnon guys really do think that like the nuclear lobbyists are lying like on purpose for whatever reason they come up with. And maybe they're lying because they're funded by Shell for whatever reason, or they're, you know, paid actors by actual coal lobbyists. Like it almost doesn't matter because the result is the same. And the thing to, I think, do, which is sort of what I think you're gesturing to, is like, well, what now? I mean, like, if it doesn't matter if things are fucked and shit's bad and people won't change it because it makes them feel comfortable, you know, what next? I think the thing that is next is to just sort of like, I mean, as obnoxious as this is to make other perspectives more comfortable. Because like with the, and not like people who
want to kill you,
like yeah, like if people want to do violence unto you, like I'm not saying you are obligated to sit at a table and explain why you should live. That's ridiculous. But like I think like in a more broader sense, you know, like when you as an individual or you in whatever position of power you hold, like if you're a teacher and a child is reluctant to learn something for whatever reason, like sitting with them and like talking them through it, like if you are reluctant to learn something, thinking about why, like explaining to yourself or to this child like why it's important to know more things than make you comfortable. Like I mean it's the thing that it's very similar actually to something that I don't remember if we talked about it on the pod or if this is just something that you and I have talked about like a disgust response is not a valid reason. Like discomfort is not an accurate or very like reasonable reason. Like it's not a good reason to not engage with something. Like your discomfort might be the point, and like that's sort of where learning happens. That's where growth begins. It's like this sounds like a Pinterest board, but like growth doesn't happen if you're comfortable, you know?
Right.
Like you can't learn or do better or be more if it's the same all the time.
Right. Like I have a very vivid memory of when my mom was still an art student. She would sometimes take me to classes with her, or like not classes, but to review, basically where they would like critique. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I got to watch one, and there was this woman who was a breast cancer survivor, and it was it's an atelier that was oriented around figure portraiture, so basically nude bodies, and it was a self portrait, emphasizing her chest after mastectomy for breast cancer, and it made me so uncomfortable, and that was the point. The point was to express her reconciling this change with her body, her mourning of this change with her body, this sense of identity and sense of gender euphoria being stripped from her, right?
Yeah. The loss, like literally
Yeah.
the loss.
Yeah. And that's the point sometimes, right? Like, the point of art isn't entertainment. This is a thing that I think is a really important focal point and inflection point right now in culture. Where the AI art thing is a great example of it, but it's not the only example of it. Where people who think art is for entertainment love AI art. People who think
Yeah.
art is for expression don't really like it. Some of them do, but they're definitely in the minority. And I would question whether or not they actually believe art is for expression.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't know. I think the thing I want to end this discussion off with is a description of science. Science is not a body of knowledge, and science is not about proving yourself right. The point of science is to put out what you believe, why you believe it, how you got there, and hope people prove you wrong. The point of science is for other people to prove you wrong, or try to prove you wrong until they can't. Right? And that's how the world changes, right? When we find something and we can't prove it wrong, we decide it's true, right? And that enables the system of peer review, the system of everybody else in the world being able to do exactly what you did in the same way you did and decide whether or not your results are accurate, is the basis the modern world works on. And it is also exactly what we're describing, right? Look into other people's beliefs. Imagine what it would be like to hold them. Imagine what it does for you. Think through the logic. And is it correct? Right? Does it hold up? Because it might. Right? It might. It might not. It probably doesn't. Most ideas don't, but it might. Right? Yeah.
It might.
On to the next thing?
Yeah, I think that's a lovely note to leave it on.
Yeah.
That leads us to our next segment, which is Sip the Lifeblood. Which is basically just like what we've been up to, what's making us happy, what's feeling vivifying
Mm-hmm.
lately. So go ahead, my friend.
I've been getting really into VTM, Vampire the Masquerade again. I run a game, I play in a game. I've been watching VTM live plays. And I've made a map because you can make custom Google Maps. You can take Google Maps and annotate them with a built-in system Google has. And I've done something very petty.
Oh, good.
Very, very petty. So in the setting of VTM, there is a group called the Zemitsi, and nobody likes the Zemitsi. They are evil, they do eugenics, they do, like, force changes on other people's bodies. They are evil. They're a type of vampire, and they're very evil. And I made a Zemitsi meeting house and centralized location in this map that is the location of the home of a shitty ex-friend of mine.
That's so good. That's
And,
really awesome.
what'd you say?
So that's awesome. Dox that bitch. Who cares?
And I couldn't remember the address. I just looked. I vaguely remembered the area it was in, so I just looked on Google Earth and found it.
You're fucking crazy.
Yeah,
That's
I'm an insane
insane.
person.
Wow. We've talked about the difference between crazy and full blown batshit insane. That shit
Yeah.
you just described as full blown batshit insane.
Yeah, it's full blown magic crazy for sure. What have you been up to Monday?
What has been feeling good? And isn't that a question? It's been so fucking hot. Like
It's
I'm
been
trying to
so hot.
not to be like a millennial talking about the weather, but all I can feel right now is the sweat under my tits. Like it's so ridiculous. Okay. What's been good? I applied for a job I feel really good about. Like I feel unusually good about it. I got feedback on my resume from a friend of mine who's sort of the queen of resumes, so I feel
Mm.
I feel peachy about
That's
it.
really exciting.
Yeah. Uh, I want to like get into other shit that's happened, but it's not good.
Um,
I started another Baldur's Gate the third playthrough, much to your chagrin,
because you won't
because
play
we were
with me anymore. You won't play toys with me now. Because you hate me so much.
we can play toys. It's fine.
No, we can't! Because you won't play toys!
No, we can't. I'm saying we can.
Yay.
But my personal playthrough is a drow rogue, and I love her. She's
Wow.
great. Yeah.
Who are you throwing to the wolves?
Sony Incorporated, bitch.
For
Okay,
their shitty
I
ass headphones?
for their shit. They're not shitty. That's part of the problem. Okay, so I have had. I'm gonna put them on fucking blast. Okay, I'm gonna give you the model. These are
Okay.
these are the Sony WH-1000 MX5s. Okay, I purchased them 3-4 years ago. Like they weren't like brand new
Mm-hmm.
when I purchased them. Like, but they were at the time the newest model of these,
Mm-hmm.
and I had never had noise canceling headphones. It was a very big fucking deal to me to be spending multiple hundreds of dollars on headphones. Okay, like,
Mm-hmm.
and they're lovely, and I I enjoyed them. Okay, like Sony makes a good noise canceling headphone. Awesome. Um, and today, literally June 16th, 2026, I use these headphones for my job. My job, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I need these to do my job. Uh, I took them off to use the restroom, and I set them on my desk, and the fucking hinge snapped on one of the headphones. I'm technically wearing them right now, but they sure don't fucking cancel noise anymore.
Mm.
It doesn't really sit on my head right. Like, you're looking at me right now, I look like an idiot. It looks like my
It's
headphones had a
lopsided for
stroke.
sure, yeah.
Yeah, like, so Buck Sony Incorporated. I could drag you bitches through the mud today. That was so disrespectful. Anyway,
I have something insane. I'll tell you after we're done recording Monday what I almost said. But
T.
what was I gonna say? Today I am throwing. No, it has to be a specific person. I'm throwing. It can be a category of people, but a small category. I'm throwing every bitch ass motherfucker who walks through the door, looks around for 5 minutes, and walks out to the wolves. They fuck with my conversion rates. They make it so we don't make enough money. We're a tiny fucking business. Well, not a tiny business, but we're a tiny outlet of the business. The store itself is tiny. We barely get any sales. And our conversions are trash anyway. And now you just they're like 30%. They're bad. And I'm gonna kill people
That's the bitch who works in retail for sure.
for sure. And also the more specific, actually no, the manager who told me the second time I worked with her, which was a week after that. Oh, your outfit looks way better this week. You looked terrible last time.
Damn, girl, that's so fucking rude.
Yeah, and I wanted to kill her. Yeah. Anything else? Anything else you want to leave off the lovely listening audience with?
I hope everyone is diking out for Pride Month.
That's
Happy
right.
June. Assorted
Bisexuals and
gays.
gays are allowed to be here, but they're not allowed to dyke out, obviously.
Yeah, whatever. You can fag out or whatever it is
Whatever.
you do.
Whatever you losers do.
Yeah. I'm a misandrist. I don't really care.
Mm-hmm. And yet.
Shut the fuck up, God. I say one guy's cute and I'm being crucified.
You said more than
Nail me
one
to the
guy is
cross.
cute.
Okay, well today, whatever.
Okay, that's our show, folks.
Okay,
Bye.
goodbye. Goodbye.